All right, so we are here at the Microsoft Studios, the DevRel Studios in Redmond, Washington. We're here at the MVP Summit, and they gave us the opportunity to do some recording here. So here we are. Um, we are from Azure NL. My name is Barbara Forbes. I work as an Azure architect there. And Geert, it's your chance to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Geert van der Cruijsen. I'm the CEO at Azure Netherlands. And let's talk about code today.
Yeah, so we want to talk about code. Of course, code AI is everything we're doing today. And we've got our own little project that we're working on. Well, we've got a lot of own little projects we're
Mhm.
working on because it's every idea you have, you can turn into practice within seconds almost. But this is something we think is really cool and want to talk about. So, Geert, can you tell us more?
Yeah, it really fits in the vibes that we have now, right? Because with
Hmm.
coding agents, we can build all kind of stuff. So what we're discussing is like it it works really well to have coding agents build stuff, but coding agents are often also a bit eager in just implementing stuff without having the right specs or the right context to actually
Yeah,
build the right stuff.
it's like a very happy toddler.
Yeah. So we thought like how could we make it easier for people who might not be fully experienced in using coding agents or coding in general, but maybe come more from the infrastructure side of things,
Yeah.
to help them in a guided way to have coding agents build infrastructure for them in a proper production ready way.
Yeah, because that's the thing. If you just ask them, "Hey, build an environment,"
Yeah.
you don't know what you're going to end up with, but it might not be what you had in mind.
Yeah, so that's where our application comes in. I will share it here. The name of this open source project is called Az Infra Harness. So what it basically is, it's a guided tour for your coding agent to build the infrastructure for you,
All
right?
right.
So it will basically interview you and get all the info that it needs to actually build proper infrastructure that's production ready that fits your environment.
So it helps you to create sort of the design that you need for your environment before you just tell an agent to actually deploy it. So that's the project you used to do, the process you used to do manually.
Yeah. So maybe it's just easiest to start off with a small demo.
Yeah, let's show it.
So what we try to do is make this as easy as possible for anyone to actually use. So we published everything as a npm uh, package. So what you can do is just take this command npx and then az infra harness, and then go to any repo that you are in, the repo that has your application or the context of the thing that we want to build infrastructure for,
All right. So it's
right?
good to be in a repo that already has the code,
Yeah,
but you could also do it in an empty one if it's fitting, right?
it could, but as I said, it will interview you for your requirements, etc. But it will also help you, like by inspecting the code that is there. Like, oh, maybe it sees that there's an API here and a database being used. So it also takes up that context. So yeah, from the repo, so it doesn't have to ask you anything, everything, right?
Yeah.
So what I will do, I'm currently running in the source itself, so I'll just do npm run dev. But you can use the publish package as well, right? But I'm in the
Yeah.
development scenario here, so I will just run it. But the experience would be exactly the same.
Yeah.
So what you can do, what you will see is this: you get a website with a number of steps that will take you through the process of building the infrastructure for your application, right?
Yeah.
So it starts off with the basics of, please give us a bit of the context. What kind of application are you building? What is the functionality that you need? Because it needs that context as well, um, to get a bit of a feeling of what we're building here, right?
Yeah. So what would an example be? What like do you describe what the application does, or do you already describe in what language it is or what framework, or is it a high overview?
Yeah, this is the you started with the high overview.
Hmm.
So what you will see here is it gives you a number of um, skills that you need to pass into your coding agent, and then your coding agent will actually guide you through the whole process of filling in the right information for the application overview. Let me just show you. So I copy this. I copy /application overview. I go back to my VS Code, open a new terminal window. And in this example, we're going to use Copilot CLI.
Yes.
So I start up Copilot. And it already has loaded all these skills, right? But with the NPM package, there's a command to import these skills as well into your environment. So your coding agent has all these skills. So what I can do now is /application overview. And when I enter this skill, it will start interviewing us now of what the application will look like. So it will first have a look in the repo, like what is there. I see maybe I see a web app, maybe I see a database, maybe I see some APIs. So it gets an overview of like, I see this happening. It reads the README, so it has a bit of a context, and then starts asking questions. So it wants to start creating things. Sure, that's fine.
So it does has that context and tries to find out based on that what the functional need of the app might be, and then it's going to clarify with you.
Yeah, so now it comes up with, is this accurate? And we will slowly have a conversation. And in the end, we get the first things done, right?
So what has it described now?
So it says like it came up with the project name that we're in, some description. It got that from the README. And then it detected some features from the README as well. So it wants to add this to a Markdown file that we're storing in the repo, so we can use it for further context when generating the actual code.
A few moments later.
When we come back to the website after having the conversation, we will actually see that all the data is filled in here in the website. So you as a human have a visual view of what was actually the result of the interview with the coding agent. So we start with the application overview, doing some non-functional requirements, and then also defining the initial application components. So how would the application fully look?
Yeah, what resources would you need, or what parts does the application have, like front end, back end, API?
Yeah, so all those kind of
database,
Azure resources, basically, but then more functionally described, right? We're still talking functional specs here, not Azure resources.
Yeah, because this is a process you could use for anything. You could use for Azure, but the process itself could also work on AWS or on local environments.
But as we will continue the workflow, we will actually notice that in the end, we're focusing more and more on Azure itself. And in the end, it should be able to generate infrastructure as code for you.
It is a good practice to start out with, hey, it's not about the technology yet. It's about the needs of the application functional part, and then we can move on.
Yeah, and it might feel slow at the beginning, but in the end, like doing the full process might take half an hour. But you actually have proper context created for your agent and also for humans in your team to review, etc. So you actually have a good starting point to build this this infrastructure as code from, right?
Yeah,
it's the thing that we don't like to do, documentation and those kind of things, right? It's the things that we keep forgetting. So let's briefly
we're basically skipping it because it's
not fun work, right? But now with this like interview style with the agent, it feels quite natural. You're just answering some questions. It will help you go over the solution by itself already. So it gets all the info that it can, and you just have to verify, this is correct or this is not correct, steering it in the right direction. And then all this data is stored as Markdown files. So let's quickly go over the other sections of this application. So as soon as we have the application definition, then we go to the second step, which is context. most applications don't live by itself. They live inside an organization, and in that organization, there might be a existing Azure platform already there, right? There might be a hub-spoke model. There might be all kinds of things that you need to take into account.
Yeah, there's governance, there's requirements.
Yeah. So basically, what it's going to do, it's again a number of questions, but then really specific about these areas. So it will ask you about policies. It can actually use AZCLI, for example, to check your current environment in this context to see, where do you have a subscription already? Okay, let me check what's in there already. Oh, there's a VNet. So it gets all that context and stores it in a Markdown file again.
A few moments later.
So after you had the interview, you will have more Markdown containing all the things around the context for the infrastructure, but also more about the platform itself. So there might be centralized resources that are not really in your scope, but things that you need to take into account. Let's say Entra ID, other like self-service things that you might need to request somewhere else. That you need to take into account as well. So that's what we store here. And then lastly, the development context. So are you using GitHub? Are you using Azure DevOps? How are you going to deploy these things in the end? Because we create the infrastructure as code, but of course, infrastructure as code has to be deployed as well. So we want to help you set up the pipelines, etc., for that as well, immediately in the same process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So after we have the application definition and the context, we go more in depth in the actual application architecture. As we saw in the application definition, we have the functional building blocks of our application. So in this example, we have a web front end, we have an API backend, we have a database, and we have an application gateway. So a number of components that we need. Now for each component, we can have a small interview like, okay, we need a web front end, but how many users is it serving? Where are these users coming from? So what location should I deploy it to, right? All these kind of things, it will ask you, and it will basically get all the details that it needs to build the infrastructure as code in the end.
A few moments later.
When we had these interviews around all the different components, we get that visually here again. So we can go to web front end, see actually all the details that it needs to deploy this in the end.
That's really nice to have that in one place.
Yeah. And since we also know the context around deployment, we also know what is the deployment strategy going to be? How do we want to deploy this? Do we want to deploy this at every commit or after each pull request? Like that's the things that we want to describe here.
And this was all stored in your repository, right?
Yeah, so all these things are just stored as Markdown files in your repository in a data folder. You can define the folder yourself. So it's actually used as spec. So you can keep iterating on this. It doesn't have to be a one-time thing. You can just do this.
But it also really helps to get the conversation going with the rest of your team or with management.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. Everyone agrees, then we can go.
Yeah. The final thing that we also do for mainly humans is create like an architecture diagram of all the components that we discussed earlier about, right? So together we can actually create a diagram also setting up the relationships between these different components. So we have a web API and a front end, and the front end is actually calling this web API. So we need that there needs to be network connection, etc., those kind of things in place as well. So we store that as a architecture diagram. And basically then we have all the information to set the coding agent to work on building the infrastructure. But we had the idea to also for humans and maybe for later projects is add an extra step, which is also storing all the decisions that we took during this process, during the interview, to store them as architecture decision records. So also you can have the conversation with some architects or other people in other teams. Why did you make these decisions?
Yeah, and these are so important to have these stored because we keep seeing it everywhere, whether someone made a really cool application and a decision was made, and you ask why, and they really don't have an answer
Yeah.
to that. So
And then
it's also a thinking exercise for yourself.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, since we have all this context now anyways, we can basically generate these ADRs. So in this example, we start off with no template, but
Hmm.
you could fork this library and pre-fill this with the ADR template that you have as a company, right? So that's already a step that you could skip then, or make it more
Yeah,
personal for you as a company.
if you already have a default
Yeah.
on this is how decisions should be
Yeah.
made.
But in this case, it's not there, so it can help you generate a template. So it will just provide you with a basic example of what an ADR looks like, or what are the things that you want to have a really big ADR? Do you want to keep it really simple? Those are a few questions that it will ask, and then create a template for you if you want that.
A few moments later.
So after you had the creation of all the ADR the template here, you actually get a list of all the ADRs that were created. And of course, you can go back to them. You can read them here. So we use Azure Static Web Apps for front end. Sure, that's our decision. But if you want to go back and forth, of course, you can rerun these commands all the time. So now we've created all the ADRs. It's time to actually start building the infrastructure as code.
Yeah.
Finally, we're at the step that we would normally just start with.
Yeah,
right?
we're now doing the tech stuff.
Yeah. So in here, we have two skills to either generate code in Bicep for the people who love Bicep, and we have the option to do Terraform or OpenTofu if you prefer that side, right? So
Nice.
we don't try to be very picky here. Both
Yeah, let's not
both
pick sides
religions,
there.
both
Yeah.
religions are allowed here, right? So in this example, I will just generate the Bicep. So we go back, have the conversation / generate Bicep.
A few moments later.
And of course, this process takes a bit longer of having the conversation to actually generate the code, right? So
There's a lot of settings to think about.
So it goes through all the context that you created, and then it built the actual files for you. And it will show you all these files here in the web interface as well. Of course, they are in your repo, so you can watch them there as well. But yeah, we just wanted to create the whole flow and then make all the things visible here as well. So we have a main Bicep here. You actually see the Bicep that was generated with all the nice coloring, etc. And this is basically from 0 to having full infrastructure as code, also CI/CD pipelines, etc. All those things created for you while having a conversation.
It's almost a brainstorm session, but you end up with results. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you need to be very, very technical to do this?
Yeah, that's the first question. Could my manager do it? Well, my manager could, but because that's
in
you,
the end,
other managers.
in the end, you're making architecture decisions, right? So you need to know, like, what do I want to have? Do I want to have a Azure web app? Do I want to have container apps? Do I want to have Kubernetes? It will help you make those decisions.
You need to know some technology.
You need to guide it as well, right? So it will ask you, like, shall we do this in Kubernetes, or shall we do this in a web app? Well, it will basically ask that based on the context that it has. But you as a human need to deliver the right input to make those decisions, right? That's where we are now. I think actual generation of the infrastructure as code, that's fairly simple. That's something a coding agent can do properly, but it needs to know what it needs to create. What are all the requirements that we need to, and that's where you come in. That's where your technical expertise is still needed. Yeah.
But this might actually also be a good stepping stone for developers or engineers who are currently just on the coding level to get in touch with this line of thinking, the architectural line of thinking.
Yeah.
So it could help people who already know the framework and know how it works and what is needed, because you have a Robert Ducky that actually talks back. A colleague to brainstorm with. But if you're not used to the process, this might guide you into the process also a little bit. I would think it would be good to have an actual person help you review if you get it right, but it's a good stepping stone.
Yeah, so we're publishing this as open source, so please have a look at the repo, try to use the packages, see how it works for you. I'm very curious on feedback by people actually using it. What did you run into? Where did it create really good context and documentation, and where did it fail? So we can keep improving this for the community.
Yeah, so we're gonna open up the GitHub repository.
Yeah,
We'll
share the
probably
link
put a link
somewhere here.
somewhere on the screen.
Somewhere here, and then
Somewhere there will be a link, and you can leave comments if you like it. You can leave likes, and if you see a bug, you can leave issues or you can contribute.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we made this for the community, so just make it easier for everyone to build Azure infrastructure.
Oh, really cool, and a cool demo. So thank you for showing us.
Yeah. Well, give it a try, and thanks for watching.